This is one of the most dramatic financial and legal showdowns involving a former U.S. president in modern history. Donald Trump is facing a civil fraud judgment in New York that totals hundreds of millions of dollars, and at the center of the storm is a single explosive question. Can he secure the massive bond required to stop the state from seizing his assets while he appeals? The case began when the New York Attorney General accused Trump and the Trump Organization of inflating property values for years on financial statements used to obtain loans and insurance benefits. After a lengthy civil trial, Judge Arthur Engoron ruled that fraud had occurred and imposed a staggering financial penalty. With interest included, Trump's share of the judgment climbed to roughly $464 million. That's not just a fine, that's a financial earthquake. And once the ruling was entered, the clock immediately started ticking because under New York law, if Trump wants to appeal but delay paying, he must post a bond covering the full amount. No bond means the state can start collecting right away, potentially by going after buildings, bank accounts, and business assets. So this isn't just a legal appeal. This is a race against time to prevent possible asset seizures. Let's talk about what an appeal bond actually is. When someone loses a civil case and appeals, the court wants to make sure the winner will still get paid if the appeal fails. So the losing side has to either deposit the full amount in cash or secure a bond from a company that guarantees payment. In Trump's case, that meant finding a company willing to guarantee nearly $500 million. Trump's lawyers argued this was practically impossible. They said they contacted numerous bond companies and insurers, but no one was willing to take on that level of risk. Some companies reportedly wouldn't accept real estate as collateral. Others required huge amounts of cash or highly liquid securities. Trump's business empire is famously built on property, not piles of cash sitting in a vault. So even though he's known as a billionaire, that wealth isn't necessarily easy to convert into a bond guarantee overnight. Without the bond, the Attorney General could begin enforcement, and that's where things get serious. If enforcement had begun immediately, New York authorities could have started legal processes to freeze bank accounts, place liens on buildings, and potentially move toward asset seizures. That includes some of Trump's most famous holdings, office towers, golf courses, and commercial properties that form the backbone of his business brand. Trump publicly blasted the bond requirement, calling it unfair and politically motivated. His legal team asked the court to either pause enforcement without a full bond or dramatically reduce the amount required. At one point, they even suggested a much smaller bond as a temporary measure. But prosecutors pushed back hard, arguing Trump should have to follow the same rules as anyone else facing a judgment of that size. For weeks, it looked like Trump might hit a financial wall. Then came a dramatic twist. A New York appeals court stepped in and reduced the required bond to $175 million, still enormous, but far less than the original amount. This decision gave Trump breathing room. Instead of scrambling to secure nearly $500 million, he now had to post about one-third of that. Trump was able to secure the reduced bond in time, which meant enforcement of the massive judgment was temporarily paused while the appeal process moves forward. But this didn't erase the judgment, it only delayed collection. Meanwhile, interest on the unpaid amount continues to grow, adding millions more to the total over time. Now the legal battle shifts to the appeals process itself. Trump's attorneys argue the trial court overreached, misapplied the law, and imposed penalties that were far too large. They say the case involves business valuations that lenders understood and that no one actually lost money. Prosecutors argue the opposite, that the misstatements gave Trump unfair advantages and undermined financial integrity. Appeals courts don't retry cases from scratch. Instead, they look for legal errors, mistakes in how the law was applied. That means months, sometimes years, of legal briefs, arguments, and rulings before a final outcome is reached. During this time, the reduced bond protects Trump from immediate collection, but the financial cloud remains overhead. This case is historic not just because of the dollar amounts, but because it shows how civil courts can impact powerful political figures. Unlike criminal cases, this is about money and business practices, but the consequences can still be enormous. Civil judgments can force asset sales, change how companies operate, and reshape financial reputations. It also highlights how appeal bonds function as leverage points in the legal system. They're designed to balance fairness, allowing appeals, with protection for the winning side. But when the numbers get this big, the system itself comes under stress. So where does this leave things now? Trump has avoided immediate asset seizures for the moment thanks to the reduced bond. But the appeal is still pending, the legal fight is far from over, and the financial stakes remain massive. If the appeal succeeds, the penalties could be reduced or overturned. If it fails, Trump could ultimately be responsible for paying one of the largest civil judgments ever imposed on an individual business figure. Either way, this case is already reshaping conversations about law, power, and accountability in America.